From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, fine people. You have reached the Badass Counseling Show podcast. My name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of this show, where we answer people's questions in our lightning rounds, and in our Thursday show, those are Sunday shows. On our Thursday shows, we counsel people, and you have caught us on a lightning round, and it's great to have you here. I greet you from wherever you are tuning in from, anywhere around the world. We have listeners around the world. I am in studio with KC over in the booth, and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me. Hello, Rob.
Just going with the flow, my friend. I'm just going with the flow.
You know, sometimes that's the best route, isn't it? You know, just go where life takes us. One of my favorite quotes is from Esther Hicks. She wrote, she's kind of a new agey type author, but I liked a few of the things she had to say. And one of her quotes is, "Nothing you want is upstream. Everything you want is downstream. Lift your oars." And as I've aged, I do that more and more. And people are like, well, what? You just go with the flow? Is that all you do? No, there are times to paddle, but you're paddling downstream. Yes. You're not fighting the current, paddling upstream. You got to let go of those things that have passed and give yourself permission to go forward and believing, trusting that there's great stuff ahead if you just let go.
Yeah, and when you row your boat, how do you do it? Gently. Oh. And where do you go? Not up the stream, down the stream. And how do you do it? Merrily.
Fucking hell, man.
Why? Life is but a dream.
That is some...
Dig it.
Wow. That is some hardcore jingle exegesis there, man. You pulled the meat off the motherfucking bone, folks. That's why he's the master. I'm just a fucking amateur playing around here, diddling myself. All right, here we go. What advice do you have for me, a future adolescent counselor? Not the typical question I get. We get a lot of followers who are therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists. I have a lot of clients as such, and you're asking, what advice do I have for you? Honestly, Sarah, two things. One, heal yourself. Heal yourself. Part of the reason you likely got into this industry is because you had your own shit, right? Pretty standard in the industry. And so every day or every week, commit to more work of going into your past, unearthing the bullshit beliefs you were taught about yourself, more and more of them, unearthing those memories that have emotional charges attached to them, and doing the work. You know what the work is. You've heard me talk about it, my book, the journaling and all that shit, writing letters you don't send, and doing more of that. Why? Because the more you are doing that, the more you are getting rid of the blockages and the pain and the fears and all the bullshit beliefs you were taught about yourself. And the more you do that, the more you're in tune with your own inner voice, and nothing is going to become more important in your work. Nothing is going to be more important in your work than your ability to hear your own inner voice. Your ability to trust your instincts, to follow your curiosity, to say things that might even piss off your client, to trust yourself. Nothing is going to block that more than all your own crud from your own past. And what you need to be armed with more than anything when you're in counseling is your own trust of your own self, your own confidence in your instincts. And those will build up with time. But the more you get your own blockages out of the way, the better you will fucking be in session. And then the other thing that I would recommend, you ask, you're a future adolescent counselor. Let me tell you something, dude. That is like one of the hardest fucking jobs. Counseling teenagers is like fucking hell. Being a teacher of teenagers, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, holy shit, man. I could not do what you do. I would be a child therapist before I would be an adolescent counselor, personally. So I admire you for the work you're doing. But the first thing is heal yourself. And then the second thing is trust your own curiosity. And I sort of talked about this just a second ago, so there's overlap in this. But you got to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself. And you can't, because the more you trust yourself, the less afraid you'll be. And as an artist, I'm a writer too, right? I've written books. I'm not a fine artist. I'm not a painter, but every artist, and counseling is art. And oration, speaking, is art. Counseling is art. And the artist that doesn't do his or her best work is the one that doesn't trust themselves. All right? And you know what? I want to leave you with one more quote. And this is for this woman asking, for those of you just tuning in, she's a future adolescent counselor and asked for any advice. And I told her, one, do your healing work. And second, you got to learn to trust yourself. And the third thing I want to leave you with is a quote by the American, known as the father of American psychology, William James. He was a professor at Harvard in early 1900s. And one of his quotes I use as the epigraph to one of my books, the book I did on infidelity, presently out of print. We're re-editing it and going to reissue it. But he says, that which is most personal is most universal. The great artists, the great therapists, the great people that we connect with have the courage to reveal their deepest shit. What makes the great... Think about it. Did you have to go through, any of you, did you have to go through a hard time in your life and somebody's music spoke to you? I have plenty of clients for whom it was Metallica, or it was Eminem, or in my case, it was Dan Fogelberg. Kind of different from Metallica and Eminem. But Dan Fogelberg, it's just his words, man. And, we've all had different ones who spoke to us. So Chicago was a big one for me. Whose words, for whatever reason, it crystallized what I was feeling. We had somebody on the show. Oh, I got to pull that out of the trash, Rob. That note, she gave us a note of a song and the name of that group that sings it, because I want to find that. It'd be in my notes. You don't have to. I'll get it later, Rob. But the point is, it's giving words to experience. And the more you have the ability to go into your own shit as a friend, as a lover, as a listener, as a therapist, the more you have the ability and the courage to express from your deepest self, the more your truth will resonate with the truths of others, the more you will be able to give words to what that client, what that adolescent is that you're counseling, what that person is wrestling with, the more you're in tune to your own pain. And Rob just fished it out for me. The name of the group is Beartooth, and it's something about loving myself, I think was the name of it. I'd never heard of it. I want to be sure to listen to that later. All right, next question. Here we go. My dad passed away 3.5 weeks ago. Been sleeping all, presumably, day. Yeah. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. Both my parents have passed away. Rob has experienced it. KC has experienced it. Losing a parent, especially if you love the parent or were close to the parent, or maybe you were always longing for that parent to affirm your worth or approve of you, and now they're dead and it's never going to fucking happen. But if you're sleeping a lot, yeah, your body is dealing with the pain. Your body is needing to rest. It's calling you down into a place of healing. And so it's not just sleeping. It's wanting to go into the pain. And your soul is asking you to heal. What that means is you should be flushing out the pain. You should be seeing your clergy person or your therapist, flushing it out. You need to be journaling, because you wouldn't be sleeping a lot unless this has wounded you. The soul needs to grieve. As most of you know, I'm a former clergyman, for off and on for about 17 years. And I still do some weddings and funerals. And one of the things that I've always been sort of opposed to, if somebody wants it for a funeral, I'll do it. But mine even takes a different flair. People who want to do a celebration of life as a funeral, and I'll do it if that's what a person wants. But I personally am not a fan of it, because the funeral exists for the dead, or for the living, not the dead. And the human soul needs to grieve. And a funeral is a socially, culturally acceptable thing that has been in place for millennia to give people permission to give the natural expression, to express the natural reaction to death. So if we're in a society that says, no, let's just all be happy and fucking kumbaya all the time. No, grief doesn't exist. There's no sad. Let's just be happy. Let's watch Barney and eat fucking Cocoa Puffs. It's like, no, fuck, no. Because what happens to the fucking grief then? When are you going to grieve? If you're not going to do it at a fucking synagogue or funeral parlor or church or, mosque, if you're not going to grieve then, when the fuck are you going to grieve? Oh, really? You're going to do it on your own time? Fuck you. If you're not going to do it at the grave, you ain't going to fucking do it on your own time. It's going to be even harder. I'm a big fan of just let's wear black. Let's allow ourselves to feel our soul hurt. Soul needs to grieve, folks, and you need to give it an opportunity to grieve. Whether you're going through a divorce or your kids have gone off to school and this is the first you've had to deal with an empty nest, or your father died, in the case of Whitney, you have to give yourself room to grieve. Good buddy of mine, his brother is passing away, a slow move towards death. And, I know he's grieving, and we talk about it a bit, and the soul grieves. I haven't lost any siblings yet. I've got 5 older siblings. Fuck, maybe I'll be the first one to go. Who knows? But I can't imagine, and losing those close to us. My college roommate, Bakes, he and I played football together. We're on the football team together, and we were college roommates senior year. And he committed suicide about, I think, 5 years or so after we graduated. I had guys that I went to the Air Force Academy with who died in war. One died in pilot training. A football buddy of mine, we're on the team together, and he died in pilot training and so forth. And man, it hits you. But if you don't give your soul the opportunity to purge the pain that is in it, the physical expression and the words and the feeling it, if you don't do that, that shit will store, and that shit will bite you in the ass. I know of a young woman who had a lot of death in her 20s. And parent died, best friend died, first lover died, and it hit her hard, and she shut down. And it's been biting her in the ass since. And she doesn't think it has, but it has. And you got to grieve, folks. The importance of grieving at the end of a relationship, at the end of a school year, when you're moving out of a geography that you've grown very attached to, the soul needs to grieve, and you need to let it do it for your own, not just your sanity, but for your own long-term health. All right, next question. Go ahead, Rob.
I've got Justin on YouTube who writes, are flare-ups normal while recovering? I'm 4 years self-harm free today, but occasionally get very strong urges. Otherwise, am I okay?
Justin, that's a great question. You, my friend, are not the only person listening to this show, following this show, who has dealt with or engaged in self-harm. All right, you are not alone, my brother. You are not alone. And I got plenty of folks here tracking the show, saying, no, man, you've been there, okay? The most important thing you guys got to understand, what Justin's really asking about is basically, hey, I've gone, what was it, 4 years, was it?
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. And
self-harm free.
Of being free of self-harm. And yet I just had a flare-up recently. And it's just like, dude, you went 4 fucking years? Are you fucking kidding me? You ask any alcoholic who can go 4 years, or any cigarette chain smoker who goes 4 years without smoking, it's just like, that's fucking, man, that's score. That's big time score. The thing you have to understand, folks, the biggest thing that can really help you, it applies to going back to the gym after you've put on 50 pounds, or it applies to starting to save your money again, dollar by dollar. It applies to all these things. Is what Justin is asking is, is it a failure, or am I doing okay? What's going on? You have to consider 3 words. Keep three words in mind. I'm going to explain something to you really, really quickly. Do you know those heart monitors when you go to like the hospital, or you're watching like fucking Law and Order or Marcus Welby reruns or whatever, and the heart monitor goes beep, 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 and it blips up, right? It sort of flares up, so to speak, and it makes the little sound, the beep sound, right? And so think of those kind of like Justin's flare-up. Justin, think about it like that every one of these flare-ups is like the beep on that monitor. Well, criminy, you've had 4 years since you had a beep. Okay, I want you guys to think about 3 words: duration, frequency, and intensity. Okay, Justin just said, I haven't had a flare-up of self-harm in 4 years. That means the frequency, how often it happens of his flare-ups, has increased by 4 motherfucking years. That is a long duration. In other words, that's an excellence. When it comes to frequency, that's excellent. Anytime you're trying to get over something and you make it 4 years, that's great. Because I guarantee back in the day, Justin, who's trying to get over self-harm, right, and has done a great job, back in the day, you were maybe having beep, 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 beep. You were self-harming maybe every day, or maybe multiple times a week, weren't you? So you have decreased the frequency. The other thing then, the other 2 words are intensity, where it's a beep and it just shoots through the roof. Or a flare-up with your lover, with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend, with your spouse, where you have this raging fight, screaming, yelling, you're both, fucking spit coming out of your mouth as you're yelling at each other, or whatever it is. Well, you know what? We've been going to counseling, Sven, and our flare-ups aren't as intense. They've mellowed out a little bit. We're still having them, multiple times a week, but it's not as bad. Okay, well, that's a success. Why? Because they are decreasing in intensity. Okay, and then the third thing, so we've got frequency, how often the fight is happening, or how often the self-harm is happening. We've got the intensity, how bad it is, and then we've got duration. So, for instance, I was with a woman in a serious long-term relationship back in my 30s. I adored this woman. And we would have fights or whatever. And I remember one time she was on the road for work, and we were talking on the phone, and she said, we were saying, I can't wait to see you. And she said, do you need to see me? And I said, oh, I don't need to see you, but I can't wait to see you. I love to see you. And she says, what do you mean you don't need to see me? I said, I'm just healthy. It's not like I need it. Like, I want to. And it's like, when they ask that second question, it's like, oh, you're fucked, right? She literally was angry at me for a month over that. Angry at me for a month. And I apologized. And I said, I'm not sure what I did, but I hurt your feelings clearly. And I truly am sorry for that. And I'm open to talking about it. I'm open to blah, blah, blah. She was angry for a month. Okay, that's a long duration for anger. And the goal in a relationship, and in that relationship, we never accomplished this, was to decrease the duration, the length of a fight or an argument or a flare-up. Justin is dealing with self-harm. Now, I'm answering a question about self-harm. And Justin hasn't self-harmed in 4 years. Well, clearly you have radically decreased the frequency. Have you decreased the intensity, and have you decreased the duration where I'm going at it for an hour or whatever? I've got an update, Rob. Go ahead.
You have helped Justin. He says, yeah, it makes so much sense. It was a big blip, but very brief.
Well, and that's it. So the duration of that one, Justin, then was short. All right, dude, do you see that? See, we so often think that unless it's totally healed, unless I'm totally done, unless we never fight again, in the relationship, if that's your issue, then it's not healed. No, man, you got to look at you got to be open to seeing things incrementally and seeing the improvements, celebrating the small victories. And so anytime you're trying to get over something, whether it's, smoking cigarettes or whether it's, arguments in a fight or self-harm or, reducing the amount of times you engage in your eating disorder or whatever it might be, is you got to look at duration, frequency, and intensity and celebrate the victories in decreased duration, decreased intensity, and decreased frequency, duration, intensity. I got them jumbled in my little melon. All right, you guys, next question. Is it unhealthy to want to leave my hometown after having a bad blowout with my dad, who's all I have? Ugh, Austin Jack, I'm so sorry. Sorry you had the bad blowout with your dad. And I'm sorry that he's all you have, man. I'm sorry. And you say, is it unhealthy to want to leave my hometown? No, fuck no, man. That would be like my first fucking thought. I just want to get the fuck out of here. You love your dad and you're so wanting his love and approval and you're wanting that relationship. And then you have this massive fucking blowout. Of course you want to blow town. And can I be honest with you? There's the truth that a lot of people know. And that is, you can try to leave your problems behind. You can change your geography, but your problems still go with you. Your problems that you're wrestling with inside and the pain inside. Austin Jack asks the question about leaving his hometown because of a blowout with his dad. You can leave, but you're still going to take all that shit with you. It's like when you end a relationship, you have a divorce or you break up. If you don't do the self-healing work and take the time to be alone and do the work to heal, you jump into another relationship after a month or after a year without doing the healing work, then you're just taking all your shit with you. See, your side of the equation and the problems in your first relationship, if you haven't healed that shit, you're just carrying it right into the next one. You are going to fuck up again. You are going to commit the same or similar problems. Okay, you see how that's bad, right? Well, the same way with this, Austin Jack. So Austin Jack, I'm going to read it for those who have just tuned in. Austin Jack on TikTok asks, is it unhealthy to want to leave my hometown after having a bad blowout with my dad, who's all I have? No, it's not unhealthy at all. It's so fucking normal. In fact, it's healthy insofar as you're giving yourself the opportunity to consider, even if you don't act on it, to consider just getting away. And sometimes we need to catch our breath, man. When my girlfriend and I argue, we just break off. I go about my work, she goes about hers, or I go out for a walk in the woods, which is why I'm always making those fucking videos out in the woods on her property, or I go hang out on my own or go for a bike ride, or she'll go hit the gym, or, we'll burrow in our work, and then we'll come back to it after we've had a chance to breathe, man, and mellow ourselves the fuck out. Because we make our worst decisions. We do the most damage in life when we're supercharged with emotion. So if you're not getting your emotions out, you're going to fuck up. You're just going to take a bad situation and make it worse. And so you're wanting to get out and get away from your dad because you guys had this big blowout, Austin Jack. you're wanting to do that is great. And I think you should give yourself a chance. At least take a small getaway. Get away for a fucking day. Go rent an Airbnb, 30 miles away, or just, whatever. Now, if you actually do move, that's okay too, if that's what feels right to you. But the bottom line is, I'm betting you still want that relationship with your father. You're just really upset and you're really hurt. So what you really need to be doing the work of diving into your feelings and flushing all those emotions out and all that pain out. Write a letter to him that you don't send. Don't send the first fucking letter. You can send the second one or the fourth one. But in the first one, tell him, fuck you, old man, fuck you. I wish you hadn't said that. You really hurt my feelings, Dad. God, what a dick, blah, blah, blah. And I'm so sorry I said this, Dad, and I miss you, Dad, and I love you. But can't say that shit to me, man. Just flush it all out, because the more you flush that out, the calmer you're going to become. And then you'll be thinking from and acting from your center, from your authentic self. Much more to come right after this short break.
So I was telling a buddy of mine how he seems happier. He told me about the book that changed his life. So I bit. I went to the Badass Counseling website and downloaded There's a Hole in My Love Cup audiobook. I started listening to it on my commute home from work, and holy cow, it was a Louisville slugger to the face. I literally sat in my car in the driveway night after night, listening through to the end of a chapter or doing the journaling exercises. My wife started to see changes. I started to change a lot. My default response stopped always being anger. Now I manage a team of salespeople, and I changed as a leader. I was listening more, not always just reacting. When their numbers started going up seemingly out of nowhere, I knew what the reason was. There's a Hole in My Love Cup is now required listening for any person on my sales team or working for me, and I gladly buy it for them. You gotta listen to this book.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, we are back with the lightning round of the Badass Counseling Show podcast, the Sunday episode. Our Thursday episodes are our counseling episodes, and we're just live taking listener questions on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. I've got 3 questions, rat-a-tat-tat here. I've got I've got Stella here saying, my papa died, and we were not told for 40 hours. Papa was my everything. He was my mom's dad. How do I forgive my step-grandpa? Well, my question, Stella, is why the hell do you want to forgive? Why? Who says you have to forgive? If you want to actually heal, then forgiveness isn't the issue. I was talking about this earlier. If you want to actually heal, forgiveness doesn't heal you. People say, oh, do it for yourself. It doesn't do it, people. We've been fed a load of goods. I'm all for forgiving. But if you don't get your own pain out of you first, you ain't gonna be able to forgive shit, because your own pain is still down in there. I get fucking people all the time, especially as a former clergyman, not just as a therapist. So forgiveness is a huge thing on the radar of the work I do. People saying, well, how do I forgive, or blah, blah, blah. And I always get into, well, why do you want to forgive? And the real issue is, have you gotten the pain out of you? Have you gotten your fucking rage out of you? So what you need to do, Stella, is you need to write your step-grandpa a letter and just spew all the vitriol in your fucking soul, all your rage. You robbed me of my dad. You tell him, you fucking robbed me. You didn't tell me for 48 hours that my papa was dead? Fuck you, old man. That's this kind of shit, because that's what's in you right now. I can feel the rage dripping out of your question. You're so angry and you are so hurt that somebody stole your father from you, your step-grandpa, who clearly isn't even fucking family. I mean, I don't mean to be a dick on that one, but come on. You're going to steal my fucking papa and not tell me my papa died? Fuck you. And if you can't get your rage out, Stella, I'll fucking get it out for you, because I'm pissed at your step-grandpa. Next question is from Buffy over here on TikTok. How do you deal with a husband who deflects everything? Honestly, you don't back down, Buffy. He doesn't want accountability. He doesn't want to be present. Somebody who's deflecting is just someone wanting surface shit. You don't back the fuck down, but you know what that's going to bring. That's going to bring conflict. So I'm betting that when he has deflected in the past, you back down, and it's exhausting. He's wearing you the fuck down. Basically what he's doing, he's blowing off what you want. He's blowing off serious relationships, serious conversation, and serious issues. And it's easy to put that off because you don't want to face it, because it's too hard and you don't want to deal with the backlash. And so you've tolerated and tolerated, but the mere fact that you're asking this question, particularly on a public forum, says it has worn you the fuck down. And at some point, the pain of eating this shit, of him deflecting everything, at some point, the pain's going to get so bad where you finally fucking stand up and you do not back down, because until you do that, ain't shit going to change. Because right now he's getting away with it because you keep backing down, and he still may not change. And unfortunately, at that point, Buffy, you may realize I need to walk the fuck away because I don't want this. I don't want this. Folks, here's the hypothetical question of the night. How much shit are you enduring in your intimate relationships, in your love relationships, in your relationships with your parents or with your kids, adult kids, or enduring with a coworker or a friend? How much are you enduring because you just don't want to deal with the bullshit? But do you realize that endurance, you're slowly over time just eating more and more shit, and it's eating at you? So to avoid conflict, because of your fear of the conflict and the fear of taking the bold stand, you're getting more fucking miserable inside. Drip by drop by drip by drippy drop. All right, next question right after that is right here. Then give me that one that you had, Rob. I saw that you had one. I've got another one right here. I just had it queued up. All right. Here, Jennifer says, I recently went no contact with my mother. I find myself anxious that I will run into her at the store and around our small community. How do I navigate it? Well, my first question is, have you gotten out all of your pain and anger and rage and sadness and longing and all your feelings? Because if not, that's the shit that's making you feel stuck. That's the shit that's causing you to not know what to say. And I don't mean you got to say any of those things to her, but you got to be with your therapist, with your clergy person, with your best friend, whoever you talk to, you got to be talking about that shit and flushing it out. More importantly, you should be doing it in your journaling and writing letters to your mom that you don't send, right? Flushing it out. And then the truth is you are going to run into her at the store. You've gone no contact with your mother. You are going to run into her. And if you want to avoid her, avoid her. If you and I were chatting right now over, a fucking soda or a beer or whatever, I'd say, do you want to interact with her? Or do you want to, when you see her at the store or at the library or, coming out of the police station, because you're paying a parking ticket or whatever, and you bump into her, do you want to interact with her? Or you want to just keep walking? If you want to keep walking, keep fucking walking. You cut her off. You went no contact. So have the courage to follow through. You don't owe her anything. If you felt you owed her or something, you wouldn't have gone no contact. It's a gutsy call. And I just want to take this brief minute, so I'm going to deviate off of that now, Jennifer. I'm going to address a side part of this issue. What folks got to understand, so many people disparaging these younger generations, saying, oh, these younger generations, they're all going no contact with their parents. Why don't they take accountability? And they're screwing up society, and society's fucked nowadays and all this shit. Well, first of all, who created these younger generations? Thank you very much. Like your shit don't stink, older generations, which is my generation. One of the things I talk about in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, is one of the chapters is entitled, Children Love Parents More Than Parents Love Children. And most parents say that is the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't love anything more than I love my kids. And as Rob and I are both parents, we both love our kids immensely. But I do know this. Let's invert the equation. Let's reverse engineer it. A child will endure far more at the hands of a parent than a parent will ever endure at the hands of a child. Right? You've had all the power from the beginning. You would chew your child's butt if they just sassed you a little bit when they were 2, right? Or you'd give them a timeout if they didn't, do whatever you wanted them to do. You've had all the power. So the range of expression that they have had, the range of freedom to be authentic or to cause you any sort of harm or pain, has been so limited for all of their lives. But you've had free range because you've had all the power. And parents often, many parents, not all, certainly not all, maybe not even the majority, but a lot of them will abuse that power and take advantage and put the child down or criticize or manipulate the child or guide the child in the directions the parent wants them to go. In other words, the parent is taking advantage of the child. And so what's my point? Would you allow someone to do that to you? Probably not. And yet here you are doing it to a child. So what I'm getting at is children love parents more than parents love children. And what that means is, even if you'd reject that theory, the point is you cannot deny that children have immense love for parents. And all they ever want is to reconnect. And to have that relationship, to get the love and the support and the protection and just feeling like they have a sense of family. So if an adult child is walking away from their parent, you think they're fucking doing that shit easily? No, it's heartbreaking. It's probably been building for years, maybe even decades. And furthermore, just for the record, in my experience as, counseling people for 30 years, and nowadays, most of the people who are And it's not in total, but most of the people cutting off parents, it's not 20-year-olds. It's 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. It's people who have not just experienced the burden of a toxic parent, but who have been dragging that burden for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, a lot longer. You drag that burden longer, and it's because you don't want to let it go. You still have the hope that you'll have the relationship with a parent. So Jennifer, what I'm saying to you is, how do you navigate it? My question to you would be, how do you want to navigate it? You recently went no contact with your mother. You say you find yourself anxious that you will run into her at the store and around our small community. How do I navigate it? How do you want to navigate it? You're not going to shut down your life because then she wins. Bottom line is, if you're anxious, you have a fear. You've got to identify what that fear is. Fear of her trying to contact with you, or walk away. Just get the fuck away from her. And she will eventually get the message. She'll keep trying and trying until she realizes she can't have access to you. But if you let her even one time, then she's going to keep trying again to increase the frequency and the duration of the contacts, right? It's just like teaching a puppy not to go pee-pee in the house. Every single time that puppy begins to squat to go pee-pee, you have to pick him up and carry him outside, don't you? Every single time. Because if you allow them to do it once or twice, or even just once, they're going to try it again. They've got to get the message loud and clear that no, pee-pee is for outside. That's all. All right, next question.
Along the same lines, Sven, Jeremy had just enjoyed your last answer and said, oof, that hit deep. And before you gave that last answer, he wrote in and said, I grew up with a narc mother and enabling father. Now I'm no contact with mother, and father is owning his part now.
Wow.
So do you think I can have a healthy relationship with just my dad now?
Yes, absolutely. You can have a healthy relationship with your dad. Anytime you get a fucking parent who's willing to genuinely own their shit, not just say, oh, gee, I'm sorry, but let's move forward now. But where they're genuinely willing to own their shit and listen to you and acknowledge the pain they've caused, fucking hell, that's gold, man. I have just thousands of clients over the years who would kill to have a parent like that. All right? You got that, my friend? You run with that. But you don't have to sacrifice your boundaries. In fact, you have to still have your boundaries and say, these are my needs. Because if you don't insist on your needs being met, folks, in any relationship, your needs ain't going to be met. Why would somebody meet them if you're not telling them, you got to meet my needs and you got to honor my boundaries? There's got to be a pain point. If people don't have a pain point or know there's going to be backlash or know you might walk away, if they don't respect you, then why the fuck would they respect you? And I don't mean to be a dick. I'm just saying this is fucking human nature. All right, next question. Shay, I believe I've pronounced it right, on TikTok says, how do I start loving myself so I'm no longer getting into toxic relationships? You start loving yourself by getting out all the crud that is causing you to not love yourself. You've got messages implanted in you. Our past, what happens in our past is we don't just experience pain, okay? What happens is we also get taught bullshit beliefs about ourselves that you ever had an experience with someone, even as an adult, not to mention as a child, you ever had an experience, maybe it's with your lover or your buddy or, someone, and they shoot you a glance, they shoot you a particular look, and that look conveys a motherfucking message? Now, come on. We've all had that experience, right? Rob looks over at me and rolls his eyes. It's like, Sven, that's the best answer you could do on that one question, today, or something like that. He doesn't do that. But the point is where just a look conveys a message. And all of you are like, yeah, of course I have, butthead. What's your point? My point is this. If that's true, which it is, then isn't it reasonable that a child would receive such a message? That a child becomes an expert at reading people, particularly mom and dad, or whoever's raising them. So that child is interpreting every look, every body movement. My turning my back to the child, there's no words, but boy, that conveys a fucking message, doesn't it? I remember, you may have heard me tell this story. My mom took me for new shoes, and we were still living in Lake Park. No, it would have had to have been Fridley. And I was in, I believe, 6th grade. And mom took me to buy new shoes. And we're the pastor's family, so we can't afford new stuff a lot. And in fact, my parents would take my sneakers from basketball when I'd blow them out, and they'd take them up to the cobbler at the holiday shopping mart there. And there was a cobbler in there, and he would fix the shoes. All right. So anyway, mom took me out for new shoes, and mom let me buy a pair that I really had my heart set on. And I knew that these were not the quality that Dad wanted. Dad had grown up on the farm in the Depression and so forth. And it's like, you always buy quality, so it lasts, right? And I knew he would want me to buy quality, but I also knew these were shiny. And it was a blue shoe with an upside down Nike swoosh in orange on it. This was before I really knew what Nike was, but my best friend, Pete Hansen, knew what Nike was. And he told me when I got to school, he started calling my shoes Eakins because they were upside down Nikes. Basically, the swoosh was upside down, so it's like a backwards Nike, Eakin. Anyway, I brought him home, and I knew Dad wouldn't approve, or he would have, it's not that he wouldn't approve, he would have preferred I get quality. And I showed him to my dad, and my dad got this look on his face, and it was just a gentle smile. And the first words out of his mouth were, "I'll bet those are going to run fast, Sven." No sarcasm, and he meant it. "I'll bet those are going to run fast." And that was his way of saying, I like them. Now, I knew my father would have preferred I get quality, but I also saw in his face that he meant it when he said, "Hey, it's all right. Good call. If it makes you happy, then I'm happy," is what he was saying. So my point is how a look can convey a message. A smile can convey a message. A sentence, you ever had someone, the old read between the lines sort of thing? Children are reading between the lines. Children are interpreting messages. All the underlying messages being sent, right? And so the bottom line is we're getting these messages as kids, and we're getting these messages as adults, and those messages embed in us. And so when someone asked me the question just now, how do I start loving myself so I'm no longer getting into toxic relationships? You've got to go inside and you've got to begin to identify all the messages that you were taught to believe about yourself. And I don't just mean in your toxic relationships. I mean the most powerful ones from your childhood. You've got to begin to identify those, give them words. Naming the beast is half the problem. Identifying it. And that's why I wrote the book, to help you identify those core beliefs that you were taught to believe about yourself, those bullshit beliefs that were never true to begin with. We've got the English version. I've got the workbook that goes with it. There's a Hole in My Love Cup workbook. And then there's also a Spanish version of There's a Hole in My Love Cup. But it is designed to take you down to help you begin to identify those core beliefs and root them out, my man. All right, next question. Rob, you got one? If not, I've got a couple here.
I got one here.
All right, go
also
ahead.
On the no contact question, I think. V. Bowl says, "Hi, love your videos. I have been low contact with my parents for a few years, and they are starting to reach out to other family members to try to get me to speak to them. Not sure how to deal with this. Can you help?"
Well, first of all, my first question would be, what do you want? And if you went low contact, that implies you want low contact. And they are, you said your parents who you went low contact, was it low or no?
LC, I presume that's low contact.
Low contact. Then that's what you want. In other words, you want control of the situation, and I'll have contact with you when I want contact with you. And you said that your family member is, your parents are trying to reach out to other people to get you to fucking talk to them. There's a word for that, and the word is coercion. They're trying to use your connections to other family members to get them to leverage you. So in other words, what they're fundamentally saying is, this is what we want, and we're going to exercise whatever options we can to get what we want. And isn't that precisely what, at the root, isn't that precisely what caused you to go low contact with them in the first place, right? That your voice didn't fucking matter. It wasn't about you. It was never about you. It was about their fucking shit. So isn't their doing this fundamentally confirming the very reason you went low contact in the first place, and that they clearly haven't motherfucking changed? So then now what do you want to do? Well, you know goddamn well what you want to do. You want to fucking cut them off. Or you want to fucking, because they're dishonoring you. If someone wants space, give them space. And if they don't, but the thing is, you got a responsibility to enforce your own boundaries. So you say to the family members, you just say, you say the same thing that I learned when I was on the streets ministering to the homeless. I spent 2.5 years ministering to the homeless on the streets of Oakland, California, sleeping on concrete. I gave up all my life possessions, drained my bank account, sleeping on concrete every night for 2.5 years. Do you want to know one of the things I learned from the homeless, working with the homeless and living among the homeless? I learned this simple little phrase: not my business. When you're among people who are just living that way, dude, you mind your own fucking business. Someone asks for your help, that's one thing. But if people, you don't fucking meddle, man, because you don't know what fucking fire-breathing dragon is going to come after you. The bottom line is you just say to your family politely, if they're meddling, just say, hey, I love you, but this ain't your business. But you should really, No, it's not your business. I love you, but this is not your business. Say it to your brother or your auntie or your grandma or whoever they're trying to employ, because fundamentally your parents are trying to coerce you. Next question. I wish my middle daughter would tell me why she quit talking to me. I know my ex lied when I left. That hurts. I'm sorry. I have experienced that firsthand. I know what that's like, and it sucks. And the bottom line is that if you wish your middle daughter would tell you why she quit talking to you, presumably you want to know that because deep down you want to understand, but the reason you want to understand so that you can fix it, right? I'm going to give you guys a tool here. On December 24th of 2023, I posted a video. The original posting was from a year prior, but I reposted it December 24th, 2023. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. It's on TikTok, but TikTok, on a homepage, it just takes forever to fucking scroll because they don't have those thumbnails. But if you go to Instagram or TikTok, it's easiest to pull up. It's also on YouTube, but again, not easy to pull up on YouTube because of the format of the platform. Anyway, go to December 24th. I'm outside. I'm in a bomber jacket. It's winter. I'm sitting, and it's titled 7 Things You Can Do to Help Your Adult Child Heal. Okay? Go watch that video. If there is a disjoint relationship, if there is a fissure, a crack, a canyon, a crevasse between you and one of your kids, go and take a look at that. And what you've really got to ask yourself, though, is this. What do you really want? If you've had a child who's cut you off, what do you really want in this situation? And the question I would ask you is this, and maybe if you've listened to the show, you've heard me ask this question before, and this is extremely important. I'm going to set up a binary question, a very simple one. In real life, it's not a binary issue, but I'm going to set it up as a hypothetical to see where your values lie. And so this question is to you. The bottom line is, here's the question. If you've had an adult child who has separated themselves from you or cut you off or gone low contact or no contact or just a trial separation or what have you, the question I want you to ask yourself is this. If you had to choose between having a relationship with that child and they don't heal, or not having a relationship with that child but they are healed, which would you choose? It's a real Sophie's choice, isn't it? If you had to choose between having a relationship with your child but they're unhealed versus not having a relationship with the child but they are healed, which would you choose? The reason I ask this question, and hopefully you say that I'd sacrifice a relationship so that they could be healed, of course. Okay, but the bottom line is, if you're trying to get back into contact with your children, your adult children, you've really got to dig deep and ask yourself why the fuck you want it. What are you wanting from the child? Is it that you want a relationship for you? Or ultimately, is it in the end, listen, I'm willing to sacrifice the relationship. I just want to help them heal. In other words, are you atoning? Are you acknowledging the shit you've done because you want them back so that you can get love from them and they can confirm your worth and your value as a parent and you get them back for you? Or are you going to go apologize and own your shit because it'll help them heal? Because the truth is, if you go to your child and apologize, your adult child, or you go back and you make atonement or try to rebuild the relationship and you're doing it because you want it for you, they're going to sniff that shit out. They're going to realize, once again, it's just about you, Mom. Or Dad, what the fuck? Why is it always about you? Versus if you go and atone with that child and own your shit and say, listen, you don't ever have to forgive me. We don't ever have to have a relationship. I just want you to know that I see what I have done. Fuck. It hurts my heart. And I'm going to tell you what I have done to hurt you. And I want you to tell me what I've missed. And I'm going to enumerate it. I'm going to tell you what I should have done. And I'm going to tell you how much it hurts me to know that I did this to hurt you. Now that's some real fucking ownership. I had a father in a counseling session just this week. And he opened the session, literally his very first sentence, and he's bawling his eyes out. And I love it if someone's showing that much emotion in session, because we're right there. We're down at soul level, hitting the ground, ground floor shit there. And he said, Sven, in the last 6 months, it's just killing me. I'm seeing really how much of a dick I've been my whole life and how much pain I've caused my kids. And my respect for this guy just grew like tenfold in that moment. If your parent hasn't come to that point yet, the real fucking come to Jesus moment, they're just fucking using it to get the relationship back so they can get their love needs met, or they can get their affirmation that, oh, I'm a good parent because I did this, this, and this. And so I'm a good parent and I need this relationship because you owe me, or because I just need confirmation of my worth, whatever it is. Again, the child being used for the adult's needs. And hasn't that been the fucking problem the whole time? All right. Next question. Does anger heal you? Because I feel that the only thing that is there is anger in certain situations. This is similar. We had a question recently. Somebody said, I want to basically lash out and hurt my ex, and it would feel really good. Should I do it? And I opened it up to the peanut gallery and let you guys answer. And pretty much everyone is saying, no, 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 no. It doesn't. You'll do it, feel good for a moment, but in the long term, it won't feel good. It doesn't heal it. But you're sort of asking a different question here, Lisette. You're saying, does anger heal you? Because I feel that the only thing that is there is anger in certain situations. Anger, getting the anger out has the power to heal, just like getting the sadness out, getting the disappointment out, getting the betrayal out. Any feelings that you have, you want to welcome them up and flush them out. That doesn't mean you have to direct it at the person. What it means is that you have to flush it out. You have to understand anger or sadness or disappointment or rage or hatred. Those are just natural human responses to a stimulus. Your body is trying to release the energy through that emotion. And if you don't allow that energy to release, the body stores it. It stores it. And this is why people have fucking emotional problems, or a lot of, physical problems are manifestations of stored negative energy. And so you have to flush that out. So Lisette, you asked the question, does anger heal you? Yeah, it actually can. And I don't mean taking it out on the person. I mean allowing yourself to flush it out with your therapist, your clergy person, your best friend, beating the hell out of, your fucking, some old sofa you have in your garage with a bat. Going to a rage room. I don't know if you guys know what those are. Going to a rage room. But also, you have to start putting it into words, writing letters to the people that have hurt you, writing letters expressing all your fucking rage and hatred and anger, journaling out all your fucking pain, everything. Does anger have the power to heal? Yeah. And so does if you're releasing it and flushing it out of you, and more and more and more. All right. I'm going to take just one or two more questions here, and then we're going to call it a night, folks. Okay. And as I said, that's what releasing is. It's flushing it out. It's using journaling or writing letters you don't send, that sort of thing. And the more you do it and the deeper you go, it's going to be exhausting at first, but the more you do it and go into it and flush it out, you're going to build up your endurance. It's just like going walking. The first time you go walking, you can walk, 5 blocks and then you're tired, and then you get up 10 blocks. And then before you know it, you're going to jog 2 blocks. And oh, wow, I'm getting my wind back, and so forth. You're just building up your body's ability to do a little bit more. That's what journaling is, and all this stuff, or going to therapy. It's scary at first, but you do a little bit, then you do a little more, et cetera, et cetera. All right. How do you know when a person is really sorry? Well, first of all, do they acknowledge what they've done? 2, do you actually feel it? Or does it feel like bullshit? 3, do they follow through with changed actions, changed behaviors? I think of an apology, the words of an apology, I think of it as an intention. That's a person's intention. The actions after the apology are the actual apology. And they're really sorry when you fucking feel it. And have you ever had a situation where someone has done something and it's what I call a 50-cent apology for a $500 crime, where they say, yeah, I did it and I'm sorry. And okay, let's move on now. It's like, whoa. Do you even know what you're fucking apologizing for? I had someone really wrong me multiple times over the course of a few years, really in hurtful ways. And the person came to me and said, Sven, I just want to apologize, for that period I was going through. I'm sorry. And I'm thinking to myself, and I actually said to this person, do you have any idea what you're even apologizing for? And they stopped, and they didn't really know what to say. And I said, that's what I thought. No, they just knew they had done some bad, or that there was a fissure, a gap between us, and they want to make it going away by just saying this magical incantation of I'm sorry. No, it's not the sorry, guys. It's the acknowledgement, the line item iteration, delineating what you've done, but then it's the changed action afterwards. That's how you know. All right. And Becky asks a great question. Becky Sargent Figueroa. All right. And Becky asks, she says, why can't I get started? Now, what she's referring to, she's pinging pinging off a question I answered earlier and getting started on the going into the shit inside, the pain, the fears, the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself, the hatred, the anger, the rage, all those feelings. Why can't you get started? I have people say, Sven, I'm just too busy. I have people say, I'm just too lazy. I have people say, well, my dad just got sick, so I got to help him. I thought, no. All of that is bullshit. It's all bullshit. Do you want to know why? I know it's bullshit. Because you can be the busiest motherfucker in the world, but you still find time to watch your favorite game on the tube. You still find time to sit and have a beer at the bar. You still find time to hang out with your girlfriend. You still find time to. No, the reason you can't get started is because you are motherfucking terrified. I have counseled more war veterans, cops, first responders, firefighters. I've counseled in prisons. I was a prison chaplain for a very short time. I've counseled people on the street. I've counseled people convicted of murder. I've counseled people whose family has been killed. I've counseled people who have eaten a hail of bullets in wartime and been across enemy lines. And the thing I hear again and again and again and again and again from all these people who have faced death is, Sven, there ain't nothing harder, nothing scarier for me than this shit you're taking me into, this shit from my past. Think about that. The reason you can't get started in your self-work, the reason you drop out of counseling, the reason you want to go with your husband to counseling and your husband doesn't want to go, or vice versa, is because somebody's scared. Because this is scary, ugly, nasty ass shit. And it's not just all the feelings from your past, but it's the implications of those feelings. One of the reasons that so often people fear looking at the parental stuff from their childhood or from their life is not just because it hurts to think that mom wasn't there, it hurts to think that dad didn't protect me or dad was an abuser, or it hurts to think that I'm 32 years old and they still don't give a shit about me and don't call me on my birthday or whatever it might be. No, what really hurts is the implications. The implication is the deeper message that fucking hell, they never loved me from the beginning, or fucking hell, I've been alone the whole time. Or holy shit, I'm alone in this world. Or whatever it might be, it's the larger implications. So it's the feelings themselves, it's the experience and the memories and all the emotional charges that come with it that you fear would overwhelm you. But it's also the implications. The reason you don't want to confront that parent is because you don't want to, perhaps this is your situation, the reason you don't want to confront the parent is you fear them blowing it off, further confirming they just don't care about you. So we run from all of this stuff, especially therapy, especially this self-work. As I lay out in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. The reason we run from the hard, ugly stuff is because it's too scary. At some point, the pain gets bad enough and you decide to do it anyway. Folks, this has been fantastic. I love you guys. We got in sort of a mellow vibe there at the end, man. We were all just sort of mellowing out by the fireplace, sharing a cocktail or whatever, having a nice moment. And I love hanging out with you guys. I really do. This was super, super, super duper. So thank you all for tuning in, for the questions you've offered, the comments you've offered. Rob, final thoughts.
On the other hand, HR on YouTube said, I come for the music. Not sure how to take that.
Oh, just their tune. Well, and thank you for the reference.
Maybe that's it. The theme song.
The theme song at the beginning and the end, for those of you that don't know, the theme song for the Badass Counseling Show was actually an original creation by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. He's the same composer that did the music for the Vikings series, still does it. He's the composer who did the music, won an Emmy for The Tudors, I believe. He did the music for the movie Olympus Has Fallen and so forth. So he actually wrote that, personal friend and a friend of the show. And he wrote the music. Genius stuff. Look him up. Trevor Morris. Great, great shit. So anyway, fine humans. Rob, I'm going to give you the last word.
You shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
No, I just know that everybody gets a lot out of this. And it's not just the questions and the answers, but the people that are online listening to us live tend to go back and forth with each other. And they are supportive, and it's an online community. And we even had some comments on YouTube about how supportive it is and how much it's appreciated. So,
That's
in all sincerity, it's very, very helpful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love it. And we're actually going to be starting Badass Counseling is going to be starting a new community soon through the Badass Counseling website called Community Plus. And for more community and more interaction and better chance of getting your questions answered, et cetera, et cetera. But for now, fine humans, this has been lovely, just lovely. So to all of you around the world, on behalf of Casey and Rob, the Rocket, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.